Hey y'all, it's Stace here from Sacred Art and Story, and I'm here in my kitchen today, not my studio, because I want to talk about how I take really, really cheap, very, very white fabric like this and kind of de-stress it and turn it into something that you can use for dolls that just kind of makes it so much more interesting and just using the stuff that you have in your kitchen. So this month in the Artful Crone in November coming up, we're going to be making these cute little dolls that are worry dolls. They're my version of worry dolls, where they have little pouches and things where you can put your worries because the world is the way that it is. But I didn't want it to be super expensive for people. I just wanted people to be able to go and kind of get some fabric, but be able to make the fabric what they wanted for their dolls. And of course, you can make it as, dark as you want, as light as you want. You can make it really, really sort of de-stressed. You can put, stuff on here and then actually sandpaper it down and kind of really make it distressed and old. But we just kind of wanted something to be able to do with the fabric. So I'm kind of talking about the goo that I use for this. And there's a couple of ways that you can actually do this and use it. So I want to talk about that too. So this is my little jar of goo, right? I treat this kind of like a sourdough starter. I just keep adding things back into it. I've got some going on right now. I've got some fabric in it right now. And when that fabric is done, I'm going to wring it out and I'm going to pour everything back in here. But when it starts to get a little bit low, I just add some more stuff in here. So, what I started with for this little goo that I got going on in here, um, it was basically just tea. I made some really, really strong tea, poured it in there. I put in some instant coffee that I had because I just kind of wanted it a little bit darker than that. I put in some cinnamon so that there would be a little bit of that kind of coloring also added into the mix, but also some of that texture, because it kind of stuck around. It didn't, dissolve all the way. I have poured in more coffee. I poured in coffee grinds because you do want some of that grungy, yucky stuff in there so that it kind of gets onto the fabric and maybe leaves some different kind of texture, on there that you're working with. So there are no measurements, there are no rules, just sort of dump some stuff in, kind of see, what it looks like. And what I usually end up doing, like if it starts getting a little bit too kind of coffee-ish and dark, then I might just pour in a little bit more tea next time. But I do just kind of keep reusing this stuff. And I'll pour this in, like I poured it into my bowl with this fabric in here, and then I added some water. So I kind of diluted it just a little bit. But it's got coffee grinds in there. It's got all kinds of, stuff going on. And that's what I want. So I just sort of mushed it all in there. So there's creases and like the coffee stain is going to get into certain creases in there. And then when I go to wash it, it'll lighten back up a little bit, but it'll have some really interesting streaks and things. And sort of where all the coffee grinds are, it might also kind of create some interesting stuff. So I'm just going to kind of leave that in there right now. For this batch, I think I'm going to leave it in probably like 4 or 6 hours. Kind of really let it be in there. For this doll, I put it in there, the fabric in there, before I made the doll for, I don't know, about an hour and a half. So not very long. And then I kind of just barely rinsed it. There was still some goo and stuff on there, and then I laid it out and I let it dry. And then I kind of brushed everything off. And then there were definitely some sort of streaks and things in there that I liked. But, it's definitely a different color than the white fabric. But there's some different ways that you can really do this. So I have always kind of been thinking, well, you just dye the fabric before you make the doll. Well, with this one, I kind of followed somebody else's instruction with sort of how she kind of grunges some things up, and she made the doll first and then paints it on. And so I tried it just to see because it was so not what I would have normally done. So I took this after this doll was sewn and stuffed, right? Her arms were not on, her hair wasn't on. Her eyes were not on, she just sort of had the basics. And then I painted this on with a paintbrush right onto her already stuffed body. So she got the full force of what the color of goo was at the time when I did it. And then I just let her dry. And there was, all kinds of stuff on there, and I let it all dry, and then I brushed everything off. And then I even kind of went in certain places with a little bit of sandpaper to kind of really de-stress it even more. But she came out with this just beautiful color. She also smells like heaven. She smells like coffee and cinnamon and sort of all the yum. And I love the color, but I'm honestly not really sure about the smell because it has like stayed for weeks now. My whole like studio smells, which is lovely, but I'm not really sure I really want that all the time. So that's why I kind of went back to I'm going to do the fabric first and then we'll make the dolls. And so in the class, that's how I'm kind of teaching everybody. But I just kind of wanted to show you what I'm doing with this. So I've just got my little grungy mixture. And when this is all done, I'll squeeze it all out. I'm going to pour it back in here. I'm going to put this back in my fridge. Nobody will touch it. And, as it gets a little bit lower, I may add some more tea in there. I may just kind of keep mixing whatever I've got in there to kind of make some stuff to use so that I can use a super, super cheap little fabric and kind of just create the look of the doll that I want. So I don't know what this like version's going to be, what color it's going to come out. I'm kind of hoping that it's sort of in between these two little worry guys. And if you want to see what I end up doing, check out the Artful Crone, and make a doll with me, because that's what we do in the Artful Crone. It's my membership group. It's a very inexpensive way to get something fun to do every month. And we do kind of make little dolls and just little sacred healing dolls or spirit dolls or, all kinds of things that sort of reflect ways that we could kind of get some wisdom back into our lives. And so this time around, we're doing these little worry dolls, and then I'm going to be talking about ways that we can kind of energetically let go of the worry because there's a lot right now. But it all starts with some goo and taking some super cheap fabric and using it to make a little bit of a doll. So yeah, check it out. But definitely make some goo if you are doing any kind of de-stressing of fabric. And it's just stuff you've got in your fridge and you can just kind of keep using it again and again. So have fun.